The lore of Absolver is filled with intriguing characters and cultures, but there are still unfathomed depths to the world, with many questions left unanswered, which can be frustrating, even for those of us who dedicate our time to delving for every secret the game has to offer. With content updates, the developer is slowly but surely unveiling more about this fascinating universe. But in the meantime, these are the absolutely most frustrating, unanswered, or unaddressed mysteries in the world of Absolver, at least in my opinion. As the setting for the game itself, most of us are intimately familiar with Raslan's sprawling vistas and crumbling walkways, not to mention the maddened, silent guardians protecting them. However, one of the most striking features of the city isn't always the most immediately noticed. As we pass from district to district, the time of day shifts abruptly, only to remain static so long as we stay within the confines of the area. What's more, the time of each area is always consistent when we return, unchanging and seemingly persistent throughout the entire city. It would be easy to write this all off as just a design choice, were it not for a parting line from Curitz. While we can't count out the possibility that Curitz may be going a bit mad after spending as much time as he alludes to have spent in Raslan, I can't help but see this as an at least implied confirmation that this effect on time is more than just an art choice, but in fact actually impacts the world itself. Why trap different parts of the city at different times of day? Why does this time lock, for lack of a better term, function this way? And how exactly did it come to exist in the first place? Does it even exist? Or is this just how the sun somehow functions in this universe? The answers to these questions remain a mystery, though one theory is that the guides lacked the means or power to do something so monumental to more than a few districts at a time, needing to rest after each section, and thus leaving many of them at different points in the day. Others point to the orate as the ones responsible, given the importance of time's passage to the Oratian culture, as implied by many of the descriptions for items associated with them, as well as the relatively close relationship their empire appears to have shared with Adal. Without an answer from Slowclap, and having not yet experienced the world outside Raslan ourselves, this is one mystery that won't be solved anytime soon. Ever since the early days of Absolver inspired one creative player to write up a 5-page lore theory focused on this figure, the Golden One and its importance to the overall story has been a subject of controversy among the fanbase, sparking more than one heated debate. In truth, we know next to nothing about who or what it actually is. The name only receives a single mention in the entire game, in fact. Much of the fascination over this mysterious figure seems to stem from both the fact that Talim, the single friendly masked NPC we encounter, wears the mask bearing its name, and that the circular representation seen on this mask leads many to associate the Golden One with these images seen in the reveal trailer, other than that and a reference to having been old Adalian, possibly hinting that it was one of the gods ancient Adal had once worshipped, considering how the guides use pagans as a pejorative when discussing pre-downfall Adalians. There simply isn't anything else to go by. Some theorize that the existence of an essence enchanted mask directly linked to the Golden One actually implies that the shining, glimmering figure who takes part in the mask enchantment ritual may be one and the same. Only time and future updates will tell if we ever learn the truth about this controversial, enigmatic figure. One of the core elements of both the gameplay and the story of Absolver is the ability of those who wear an essence-infused mask to revive at an altar should they be mortally wounded, essentially cheating death. We also know that those who take on an Absolver's mask lose the need for food or drink, possibly even sleep. But what does that mean for the rest of those pesky biological functions which define a mortal existence? Well, in truth, we don't really know how far the so-called immortality of an Absolver actually goes. Things aren't made much clearer by Rizarin's claim of sending the Absolvers who come to kill her to their quote-unquote true death, leading us to believe that the person she's fighting when we first encounter her did, in fact, die when she tore the mask from his face and sent him plummeting off the side of the tower. Even more curiously, we're treated to a brief flash of this tendrilled black abyss left on the, I suppose you could say, scar where their mask used to be, which leads me to wonder, what actually killed them, the fall or the removal of their mask? Is it even possible to simply remove one of these enchanted masks once you've put it on, losing the traits of an Absolver and living on as a normal person again? If so, why do so many of the lost prospects appear to be desperately attempting to remove their own masks, only to struggle in vain? Does aging halt along with the need to eat or drink? We've never seen an elderly Absolver, nor have we met anyone who claims to have chosen to remove their mask and retire. But that doesn't mean such a thing doesn't exist. So far, we can only theorize, and Rizarin is certainly keeping her lips closed on the matter. One of the questions I most often hear asked about the lore of this game is, what is it that the Absolvers do for the guides exactly? The simple, straightforward answer presented to us is that we serve their will, either as missionaries or enforcers of the guide's most prevalent tenet, the Law of Anlek. While, typically speaking, this should be a reasonably comprehensive answer, it still leaves us with one small, nagging problem. We've never been told what the Law of Anlek actually entails. In fact, the absence of this detail is responsible, either directly or indirectly, for so much of the story still remaining a mystery to us. By the way the topic is referenced in both the artbook and game dialogue, this law is what fundamentally differentiates the guides and post-downfall culture from the Adalian Empire's prior rule. Considering we haven't been given a chance to experience much, if anything, of society beyond Raslan's isolated ruins, details of this seemingly core principle would allow us to more effectively speculate on the outside world, if only through comparing the words and implications of the law with what we already know of the days prior to most having sworn obedience to it. What's more, knowing specifics of the law would open us to greater understanding of not only an Absolver's duties, but to the motivations of the guides and their central figure of worship, Anlek, for whom the law itself is named. With this knowledge, theories on the myriad cultures of this world and how they relate to the story and each other could be much more comprehensive, and it really does feel like an oversight to have excluded such a keystone piece of lore from the game. There are theories, prominent among them being that the law directly dictates essence use, but without more details from the developer, it's simply impossible to be sure, much to my constant irritation. These certainly aren't the only unsolved mysteries of Absolver. The story itself leaves us with nearly as many questions by the end as we're given solid answers, leaving most of the tale still untold. But I personally find these particularly frustrating, considering how vital the answers to these questions could be for understanding the world behind the game beyond more than simple speculation. Of all the possible theories behind these mysteries, which do you like most? Are there other unanswered questions in the game that get under your skin? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will catch you all next time.